Okay, here we are again. Once again, I've been at work, the last couple of days, and it's always a joy, an absolute joy to come back and record videos based on what I've been reading, based on what, for me, I've been learning, and ultimately try and share that. I've spoken before about the videos that I've made and how initially, when I started doing these, I was saying, it really is about documenting what I'm learning and documenting what I'm going through, and the growth that I feel that I'm getting from it. But also now I seem to have changed to a point where I think, you know what? If I'm getting any benefit from this, I'm sure that possibly other people can. So, it's moving into a duality where I think other people can have a look. And there are subjects that keep coming back, keep coming up for me that perhaps I haven't either resolved or I need to work with further. And they tend to come up around the time that I meditate. And I do meditate pretty much as I can, nearly every day. And I don't feel bad either. I don't berate myself whether, if I haven't managed to fit it in, because meditation, I think, as I've talked before about, it can be what you want it to be, not what somebody else wants. And so I'm also doing some reading around chakras, which is fascinating me because it all feeds in. All of this stuff really feeds into to I suppose a central theme. And of the meditation I've been doing and thinking about chakras, I've started to listen to my body a little bit more, and I've noticed that where areas of tension or areas of stress are actually to do with the point at which the chakra is located. But again, I don't want to get too metaphysical in this particular video, but it's fascinating me the way how that all connects. If I'm feeling pain in my shoulders, then it's actually to do with my throat chakra. If I've got a headache, then the third eye and the crown chakra. So I think, these are the things that, as I say, they feed in. One of the things that keeps coming up for me, though, all the time, particularly around videos perhaps I've made before, is to do with this thing called judgment. Now, I suppose when I'm putting these videos together, I kind of look at what I'm doing and suggest what other people might want to do or might want to look at or might want to read or watch videos or listen to audio tapes. And in the past, I've sort of said, that there is a danger, isn't there? The ego sort of separates us or wants to separate us all the time. And you say, well, I'm reading this and I'm feeling the benefit, therefore you should. And if you don't do this, then I'm judging you in some way, which has been, I suppose, quite an ongoing thing for me. And I'm really, really getting to grips with it now. Because I suppose what we get when we judge somebody is we get an offense of sorts. I did a video on the very beginning of these called "Don't Be Offended" or "Try Not to Be Offended." And I think what happens is when you judge another person as being different to you or separate from you, not only do you invite the ego in, but you also are inviting judgment. And in some ways, that's a very big trigger for people. They will paint somebody in a particular color and say, right, you're someone who doesn't follow meditation practice. You're someone who does. You're someone who follows that religion. You're somebody who, and we paint these people in these different colors and we seem to look at the world that way as very, very separate. And I think that's exactly what the ego wants. And so basically, some people will say, okay, I don't need all this stuff. I don't need to hear it. I don't need to see any affirmations. I don't need to meditate. I'm happy with the way it's always been. And that is also perfectly fine, perfectly okay. So there is a big thing for me now around judgment, and I'm working on it, and it's making sense to me. And so you look at some of these triggers, as I say, these uh, I think I call it triggers and lies, because I think a trigger response is something that you go, oh, I can see a difference there between him and me, or I can see a difference between myself and another community or another group, um, and it triggers you. But the problem, I suppose, that triggering, and judgment causes is that you follow you follow unwittingly down that path, down that cul-de-sac, which actually sort of leads you down a blind alley, and you think, why on earth am I judging this person when really they're just part of the whole humanity tree, and it becomes a lie. It becomes, when you look at someone as being different, you say, well, okay, they're not doing. They're not looking to change. They're not looking to grow. They're not looking to develop. Is that a problem? And actually, I don't know. It's not a problem for me. It could be a problem for them. So this trigger response, and then this lie that you follow, is all part of the separateness that the ego wants. When really, I suppose we should be looking at acceptance. And I'm building together a kind of model for myself now. I've spoken about the 4 pillars that start this model, which is the pillars of peace. I spoke about them in a video previously, where we had floss, we had forgiveness, we had love, we had openness, and we had self-worth. And on top of those pillars, we had this idea of compassion. And compassion for me is a critical key for feeling better about the world, better about your situation, better about the environment within which we all reside. And so on top of that, we now build in acceptance. So these triggers and lies that we have every day, I think that's something to work on, because what that allows you eventually to do is get to this point of acceptance. This idea that we accept that someone doesn't do a particular thing. We accept that somebody is perhaps struggling and doesn't pick up the tools that are all around them. We accept that somebody is in a certain relationship problem, or a work problem, or a poverty problem, or an abundance problem, and not picking up on the idea that they can change. So, this is a very sort of important point in my development, I think, and that's why I wanted to record this. So I think, the theme here is, we've got to, it's all very well reading a book on something and then moving on to the next one. It's all very well watching a video or a seminar and then moving on to something. I think sometimes we've got to go back and make sure that we actually got the full message. And the full message for me is to remove judgment, is to invite compassion, and to live in acceptance. So, felt good about that one, and I hope you're having a good week. I'm just about to have some rest days, so I'm going to do a bit more reading, a bit more meditating, as is my wont.